What's up, guys? Mr. Dan here. Welcome back to another double feature review, reviewing two more films in the He Came from the Swamp William Grefe set from Arrow. Got my grandpa stocking up, and I got my William Grefe poster up on the wall. Previously, I did Sting of Death and Death Curse of Tartu, although in the title of the video, I just called it Curse of Tartu. I didn't realize that, but I should have just called the whole thing Sting of Death, Curse of Tartu. But at any rate, please check out that review. Today we have kind of a mixed bag. That was a mixed bag too. I liked Sting of Death much more than Death Curse of Tartu, but Death Curse of Tartu, bit of a tongue twister, had a charm to it. We're going to start with a film, and I'm going to spend very little time on it because I want to get to Mako, Jaws of Death. This is my second take. In my first take, I went on a rant about it, and I just didn't want to come off that way. Anyway, yeah, Mako, Jaws of Death, starring Richard Jekyll, is one I've heard about for years, you know, being a shark movie. I've already told the story in the unboxing how this was actually written before Jaws, and William Grefe could not shop it to anybody. Nobody really was interested until Jaws, and then all of a sudden people became very interested, and he was able to get it produced and made. And incidentally, there are no Mako sharks in the movie. That was just a fancy title. There are a variety of actual real sharks, and the film was actually noted for its underwater photography, which was a specialization of William Grefe. So lots of real, actual sharks in the ocean and in captivity, made up to look like ocean-going sharks, including tiger sharks and perhaps some other species. Anyway, let's just get rid of the naked zoo first. I will never turn this cover art over, okay? I really didn't like this movie. It's about a gigolo that sort of preys upon this older woman played by Rita Hayworth, who was in her early 50s. And it's a shame because back then, once you reached a certain age, even like 45 or 40 probably was like the cutoff. There were certain roles that, you know, even big time Hollywood actresses couldn't really get anymore. So she was, I don't want to say she's reduced to this because I don't think Richard Jekyll was reduced to this. I think it's a good role and a good performance. And lots of actors, everybody from Raymond Burr to Chuck Connors, you know, once they got to a certain age, you know, a lot of them did choose to make horror films. Maybe some of them didn't really have much of a choice in terms of getting a paycheck, but many of them did. And this isn't even a horror film, a low-budget film, exploitation film. You know what I'm trying to say. Anyway, she's fine in it. She's got this young writer named Terry on call whenever she gets, I guess, horny. She calls him and says, I need you to come over. She's married, by the way, and her husband is in a wheelchair. He controls it and wheels around. So he comes over, and all of a sudden you hear this, and he kind of wheels out, and they have this very awkward kind of conversation, and they have dinner together, and then when he wheels himself away, they start making out, and eventually he sort of figures this out because he's not, you know, dumb. And there's some violence, and then at the end, there's a resolution. Now, that whole story is actually okay. There's a couple scenes. There's one scene of sort of violence, and then there's another scene where the Terry character decides to sort of get back at the Rita Hayworth character. It's downright mean, to be honest with you. But you know, that could have worked like as an Alfred Hitchcock Presents episode or something like that, like a 45-minute episode. What you have in addition to that is just a day in the life of this Terry character, this writer who lives in this sort of artistic type community in Florida, which is a real town. And, you know, it's just like a center for hippies. And, you know, there's these extended scenes of him going to parties, and there's just drugs and debauchery. And he has like 3 other women he deals with, or he, you know, has relations with throughout the course of the movie. And the second one even knows about the third one and doesn't care. And the third one has a boyfriend who's walking around the party going, where's my girlfriend? And he, you know, very cruelly just takes her into a room that he has already set up. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. I just didn't enjoy it. Now, having said that, I can enjoy or appreciate movies about unlikable characters, such as William Grefe's Impulse with William Shatner. So if I'm going to say anything positive about The Naked Zoo, maybe it was a warm-up for Impulse, which is a much better story. It moves along more. Just more interesting to look at. There's just long party scenes in this one. I just didn't like it. And I have watched another William Grefe film since then that did feature some drug use and some hippies and so forth. That was much better than The Naked Zoo. But that was, you know, it was the time. So exploitation films took their cues from what was going on in the news and in society at the time. Anyway, enough about that. Mako, Jaws of Death. Yeah, this is Richard Jekyll. He plays a real nut in this, and he plays a character named Sonny, who develops the ability to communicate with sharks telepathically. And there's a whole backstory about that, and it's really cool. There's a flashback scene. I think it's like to post World War II, but he's in the Pacific on an island, and he comes across a guy who's got like this cool necklace who I guess teaches him to communicate with sharks. Yeah, it's that ridiculous, but not as ridiculous as Sting of Death. So it allows him to use the animals to attack anyone that crosses him, which is pretty much everybody annoys him. The whole world, essentially. Anybody that has anything to do with fishing, or especially shark fishing or treatment of sharks, you're going to be in this guy's crosshairs, and you're going to be in trouble. So it actually opens up with some people that are fishing. I don't even remember if it was shark fishing, but they see him, and he's just kind of floating along on his little boat next to him, and they bring him on board, and they're like, "Hey, what's wrong? You out of gas? You need help?" And they're like, "This guy's a little weird," and then he attacks them, and it's, we start having a body count, and he uses the sharks as a weapon. By the way, he lives on the water. He's got a trap door. Okay, so he just, he communicates with the sharks all the time. Eventually, people are brought back there. He uses a boat as a weapon at one point. It's a pretty exciting scene. The people are seeing this boat coming. They're like, "Whoa, what's going on?" He's coming in a little fast, and he just doesn't stop. And he's got, he can use he himself as a weapon, swimming around and using these darn hooks, harpoons, and so forth as weapons. And there's also a subplot about his relationship with a woman who is married to this guy that owns a bar, and the gimmick is behind the bar is like an aquarium, and he has a woman played by Jennifer Bishop who will dive in and do like an underwater ballet, and the guy is such a character. He's this enormous, you can't see that, he's this just enormously large guy who wears these loud clothes and smokes a big cigar and has to relieve his aching joints, I guess, from carrying all the weight in his in the bay, which is where his house abuts. Anyway, then they come up with this scheme to put a shark in there with the woman, okay? But they actually have a trick where they have it divided in half, and the bar patrons can't really tell the difference. And so that whole plan, they need Sonny to help capture the shark and set that up. But he also starts scheming on how to make that into a complete disaster. And he just pretty much goes on a rampage using his sharks and himself. And it's just entertaining. It's a fun exploitation type movie. And Richard Jekyll is very good. Apparently, William Grefe said that he originally wanted to get Henry Silva. But they had a meeting, and Henry Silva said, "Look, I'm a New York kid. I don't do the water that well, and I don't swim. Is this going to be a problem?" And he pretty much said, "Yeah, I kind of want someone who could swim, and we need some underwater shots." So they got Richard Jekyll, Dirty Dozen, Devil's Brigade, just veteran actor, Green Slime. William Grefe said that he flubbed one line the entire shoot. Every other line was like a first take. So can't ask for better than that, especially in a low budget film where they're trying to move things along. So yeah, really enjoyed Mako, Jaws of Death. And also adding to the colorful cast of characters in the film is Harold Sakata and John Davis Chandler, who play these two guys that hang out on the water and at the local bar and everything, and who are sort of become henchmen in the film, I guess, and they have a confrontation with the Richard Jekyll character. Harold Sakata, of course, known for playing Oddjob in Goldfinger. He also appears in William Grefe's film Impulse, where he has a fight with William Shatner. And John Davis Chandler appeared in many of these films. And he was in a number of Sam Peckinpah films, a number of Westerns. And he's got quite a look about him, especially when he gets angry or crazed. So pretty good supporting cast in this one, for sure. But what are your thoughts? Have you seen either one of these? Were you unfortunate enough to see The Naked Zoo? And more importantly, what are your thoughts about Mako, the Jaws of Death? Let me know in the comments below. Come back again. Next time we got, I'm not sure what I'm going to do next. I'm either going to do the documentary They Came from the Swamp and Whiskey Mountain, or Hook Generation and the Psychedelic Priest. So the Psychedelic Priest and the documentary are the only two that I haven't watched yet. And I'm not looking forward to the Psychedelic Priest because I've had enough of the darn hippies. Come back again soon, and I'll talk to you then. Later.